This is Dan Abbott. I'm making this video for the AEDD 105 class at Southern Maine Community College. This is one of the block exercises. I'm going to have you do a piping and instrumentation drawing shown on the left. What I want is for all of those symbols to be created as blocks. I want the blocks to be annotative, and I'm going to have you make them in such a way that you can place them on top of flow lines, and the flow lines will draw with P lines, and have them automatically break the line so that the block is drawn correctly. I'm going to start by going to the block editor. I'm already in the block editor. Let me start over again. So I'm going to start a new drawing. The new drawing is going to be an imperial drawing. I'll go to the block editor by typing BE. I will call this first one FO 500, F0 500, which is that filter right there. Click OK. Now I'm going to draw using a snap increment, and I'm going to set my snap increment to 0.05. And I'll start by drawing a P line. I'm just going to draw this anywhere in the block editor, and I'll place the base point later on. I'll start with a 0.4 length on this, and that's a P line, and I want to make sure that the length of that P line is correct, but I also want the width to be correct. I'm going to set the width to 0.02. So now I'm going to copy that so it goes up that much. And that much in this case is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. That's going to have a distance now of 0.2. And I'm doing all this in the snap increment just to make it a little easier. I'm going to draw a line. Goes from here to here. I'm going to change the properties of that line. So instead of being a continuous line, I'm going to change it to a hidden line. I'll just go over to properties. Under line type, I'm going to go to, first I have to load that. Well, I have a trick. I'm going to do change prop. When I do change prop, I'm going to pick the line. I'm going to change the line type, and I'm just going to call it hidden. And it'll automatically go and load it for me. Breaks it into a hidden line, and I've got that little gap. Now I also want an attribute associated with this. So I'm first going to go to the style command, and I'm going to create a new style called Roman S. I'm going to base it on the Roman S font. Okay, now I'm going to add an attribute. Attribute definition command. Tag is going to be type, and the prompt is also going to be typed with a question mark. The default in this case will be F0-500. This will allow me to make a change to that tag if I want, and I'll have that come preset. I'm going to clear lock position because I want to be able to move it around. I'll insert it on the screen, go with a text height of 0.1, pick OK. I'll put the attribute right here. Looks like most of them are rotated, so I'll start by rotating it because we can rotate it after we place it if we want, but I'll put it so it looks like that and bring it off to the side. That looks pretty good to me. Now I want to do one other thing, and the one other thing is, well, two other things. I need to go to properties and make it an annotative block. So when I come down to where it says annotative, I'm going to change that to yes. Now I want this to be something I can put on top of an existing P line so that when I'm coming over here and have to place a block, I don't have to break that P line in order to do it. I'm going to put a wipeout behind this. To do that, I'm going to be back in AutoCAD, use the wipeout command. I'm going to pick that point, this point, and this point. That creates a wipeout. It's actually going to wipe out most of what's here right now. Now I'm going to use a command called draw order. DR is the alias for that. Draw order allows me to select. In this case, I'll type L for the last thing I created. I'm done selecting. I'll press enter, and I'll say move that in the back. Now the wipeout is behind. I don't want those edges showing because that changes the nature of my symbol. So I'll go back to the wipeout command, and I'm going to say frames should be off. Now I'm going to close my block editor. Save my changes. Now I'm going to go to layout, and I'm going to start by deciding what size sheet of paper I want. In this case I want B size. I'm going to go to the page setup manager. These are the printers available at SMCC. These will not be available if you're not at SMCC, at least some of them wouldn't be. I'm going to print the TGDS, select 11 by 17, which is B-size paper, monochrome, which is our standard for plotting. Pick OK, close, and now I have a B-size sheet of paper. Now I want to bring a title block in. I'm going to go over to my block palette under recent blocks. We'll just we'll use the architectural title block. See if that's the right size. We'll bring that one in, put it at 0, 0. Put it at 0, 0. Put it in place. That one's fine. I'm going to make my viewport a little bigger. Bring it out here. Bring it down here like that. Let me put my object snaps back on. Okay, I have object snap turned off because I was using a snap increment, but I'm going to leave them off actually. Now here's why I want the wipeout. I'm going to go into model space. We'll set a viewport scale right now. We'll try 1 to 1 and see how that works. I'll lock the scale. I'm going to start by drawing a P-line, and I'll just start over in this area right here. Since that's the block I just made, I'll start by drawing a P-line that comes up. I'm on a snap grid, so because of my snap grid, I'm able to come up in incremental amounts. I want the width of my P-line to be 0.02, the ending width to be 0.02 as well. A little segment right there, and I would normally stop. Then I would go and insert my block, and that block would be called this one. I'd bring it over here. I forgot to put a base point on here. Let me go back to block edit. And in block edit, I'm going to edit that block, and I never did put the base point. I'm going to go over to the block authoring palette, say put a base point right there. Save it again. Now, right now, if I were going to draw by drawing my polyline in segments, I'd bring that in, I'd stick it on there, and it would look just fine. Then I would draw a polyline that goes from here and continues. The problem is, this only works at a 1 to 1 scale. If I decided I wanted to change the scale for some reason, and I wanted to go to a different scale like 2 to 1, everything comes up. You notice what happens first is my block disappears because I don't have a scale assigned to it. If I open it up again and then go back in here and say add current scale, now because it's scaled, the gap that I created is too big for what I have in place. So what I want to do is have this set up so it doesn't matter what scale I'm at. I'll lock this one. So I can just go in and say I want to draw a polyline. I'm over here now. I want to draw a polyline that starts here, has a width of 0.02, comes all the way up past where those individual blocks would go, come over, come down here, start another polyline down here. I'm going to track directly off of that. Start about here. And just let me draw my polylines the way I would normally draw polylines. Turn on polar tracking as well. Now when I bring in that block, I can put it anywhere I want it to go. And when I place it, say I put it right there, it automatically masks the polyline behind it. Now a couple things about this. One is I've got an attribute here, and if I double click on this, it allows me to edit the attribute. So I can say, oh, this one doesn't want to be 500, it wants to be 501. Apply, and now it changes what that says. I can also, if I have to, because I didn't lock it in place, I can move the attribute around and it's still part of that block definition. I can even, if I want, double click on it, go over to text options and rotate the text so it's at a different angle. And then I can go back and say, yeah, I have to pick OK, however. I can go up here and say text options, change that to 0, pick OK. Now, I can still grab it. I can still take and edit it and move it around. So by not locking it in position, it gives me a lot more control over the way the attribute looks. And just undo back to where it was there. Now you notice I've got 3 valves here. Well, one's a filter and 2 valves, but the symbols are quite similar. So rather than go through the same process of creating them every time, let's go and make that valve right there. I'll go back to the block editor. This time I'm going to type in the V-5112 That's what this is called. Of course, it's going to get increment up, but that's what the first one's going to be called. Now, instead of starting by drawing lines, what I'm going to do is to insert the original block that I had, bring that in place, explode it. Now, and the purpose of exploding that is for me to be able to modify it. So I'll take the attribute and I'll change the properties of the attribute. I won't change what it's called. I'll still leave tag, but my value, instead of being F0, will be V1, a V dash, and we'll put in the 512. Now that makes it a different default value. Also delete that line that goes down the middle, since that's not the way that symbol looks. I'll draw a circle, and again, because I've got this on a snap, I can go right to the center, draw a circle out that's going to be the right size. I'll move the attribute so it's up above, maybe just one more tick up. Now we'll draw a line. The line's going to come from here over to here and then down again, so it looks about like that. That's close enough to what I have right there. Now, do I have a wipeout still? I do, and the wipeout is still behind it. Pick the close editor, save the changes. Sorry about that. Save the changes. Now you notice when I went in and out and made some changes to this, that block is no longer on top. I'm going to draw edit that and put that in the back now. I'm sorry. Draw edit this and put it in the front so it's still blocking away. Now the next valve comes in. Pick this one. Bring it over here. Ooh. Once again, I forgot to put a base point in. Go back to block edit. We'll block edit this one. I'll go to the block authoring, put the base point right there. Save the changes. Now, when I put this on top of my polyline, once again it breaks the polyline so it looks like that. That's movable. Put it in place like. The other nice thing about this, of course, is that I can grab the valve and move it. And when I move it, the wipeout moves with it, so it still moves what looks like a break in that line. A couple other things. I'm not going to go through this whole thing. Obviously, there's some tedium here, and part of the tedium is the fact that when you're done, you can actually copy large amounts of this so that it goes in place like so. Or when you get the left-hand side done, you can mirror it over. There are all kinds of tools that you can use here to make things go a little better for you. But I do want to show you something about that arrowhead. That arrowhead that shows up here, we'd like that to be something we can also drop on a P-line. And because it comes to a point, I'm going to do something similar with the wipeout. So I'll go back to the block editor. I'll call this one arrow. Click OK. Now I'm going to draw a P-line again. This time when I start, I'm going to type W for width and say my starting width is 0 and my ending width is 0.1. Now as I draw this, it turns into an arrowhead because it goes from 0 to the 0.1 that I just placed. And I'll make that 0.35. So it looks like that. Now my base point is going to be here. Go and close the editor, save the changes. Now if I bring an arrow in here, because if I bring it on the end, it's just going to sit there and look like that. But even if I bring an arrow down here, went to the end point, even if I bring an arrow down here, what I want is for that arrowhead to block the line under it so that it still comes to a point. So I'm going to go back to block editor. Block editor, I'm going to add another wipeout. This time when I do the wipeout, I'm going to start on one corner. I got to turn my object snaps off. Okay, I go back to my wipeout. I'll take that. Hang on while I turn my object snaps off again. Alright. Do my wipeout. I'll go from that corner to this corner to that point to this point. Enter. Once again, I need to change draw order. The last thing that I created is going to go to the back. Now I close my block editor, Save the changes, and you notice now the arrow looks the same way it does up here. So now all your P lines can be drawn, all of them, as single long lines. So the one that goes across the top, I can say draw P line, and with a width of 0.02, bring it across like that. Now bring that arrow in. When you bring the arrow in, you can say you want the rotation to be something that you indicate on the screen. So I'll bring that in. So I bring it here, rotate it around so it looks like that. Now I can just copy that. Have another one over here. Have another one over here. Have another one over here. And it looks, obviously, a little, I've got more of them, but it looks like it does over here where the arrows come to a point. You can read that point really well. I think that's everything you need to do this assignment. Just make sure things are done incrementally. And, well, just in case you're not sure, that little dot right there, that's something you can create with a donut. And if I use a donut with an inside diameter of 0 and an outside diameter of, say, probably 0.06, and put it in place, might want to be a little bit bigger than that, but use the donut at any rate so that when you create this, you got a dot instead of a circle. And then don't forget that once you've placed your attributes, as long as you've made the attribute something that isn't locked in place, you can move them around. You can double click on the attribute itself. You can go to text options. You can change the rotation angle to whatever you want to change it to. You can make it go backwards. You can make it go upside down. You can change the width factor. In fact, you could say this takes up a little too much room. Let's change that to 0.8. Now it gets a little bit skinnier. You could give it an obliquing angle if you want it to look a certain way. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with that. I think that's enough. I think that's enough to get you going on this one, and we'll see you in class.